What's up, agency owners? I'm excited for another amazing episode. We're going to talk about how to land bigger retainers. My guest on the masterclass today is going to talk about how he sells $30,000 to $100,000 plus retainers, which I think all of us want to do, but a lot of times we're doing it the wrong way. And so let's go ahead and get into the show. Hey, Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Jason? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. So, like you said, my name's Spencer Brooks. I run Brooks Digital. We're a digital agency. We do a lot of strategy, like user experience, as well as design and development for nonprofits, specifically those nonprofits that focus on a health condition like cancer, diabetes, something like that. And we take the perspective that their digital presence is a product, not a project, because there's certainly a lot of one time project based thinking in the nonprofit sector. So we try to bring a more agile approach to help them adapt to changes in online health information and things like that.
Awesome. And so, how did you get into doing this, and how did you wind up picking this niche?
That's a great question. I mean, I stumbled into it, to be honest. I think many people do, or at least other agency owners I talk with. I started as a freelance web developer, and so over the years, I started hearing about, oh, you need to niche down, you need to choose a good positioning, things like that. And I began by just honestly examining the clients that I was working with already. And I looked at them and I went, well, the 60 or 70% happened to be nonprofits. And so for a while, I focused just on the nonprofit niche. And I made a decision, hey, this is still quite large. That's like a million, there's a million nonprofits that are seven figures plus in revenue. That's still quite large. So took another look at our client roster and realized we just happen to be doing work with a lot of organizations that focus on health issues. And so that was much scarier to do because it's much smaller. And you're talking about maybe 50 or 100,000 tops. More realistically, the ideal client is somewhere in like that 10,000. There's probably 10, 20,000 organizations in that space. So it's a little bit scarier to make that decision, but I went ahead and did it. And so that's sort of how I ended up in this space today, really by just sort of looking back at what clients happen to be working with us, what clients happen to, the clients with the highest revenue, and making those decisions with a whole lot of courage and some help along the way to get to where I am right now.
Awesome. So, let's talk about how are you landing such big retainers?
Yeah, that's the mega question, right? I I think I'll start by saying that the biggest retainers have come, in my experience, from a working relationship with a client that matures to a point of a big retainer. So it's not necessarily from day one that I'm getting a retainer that's six figures. I'm sure that there are agencies out there that have developed a market position and that claim to expertise where they could theoretically do that on day one. But I think much more commonly, and certainly in my case, that develops over a period of time. So I'll usually start with smaller projects, and that's usually the case with clients is that they come and they have a very specific project or something that they want to do, and I evaluate their organization as a whole and say, okay, this is what you want to do right now. But in my head, I'm sort of thinking, is there an opportunity for a retainer here? Do they have ongoing needs? And so I'll take that. I might take that small project and do some sort of strategy or examination of, okay, what are your needs? Do a discovery and then pitch them a little bit of a larger project and then telegraph that there's probably a longer term retainer here. And that's just how we work. So it's a progressive process, but I telegraph that that's usually how we work. And then I build the client relationship into that place.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that just because I see so many people that they're pitching marriage right off the bat. And I don't think it works for either party because It's a big commitment. Like, for example, I remember many years ago, and this happens all the time as well. I had a client that came to me and said, "Hey, charge $5,000 a month on a retainer, and it's month to month." I'm like, "Well, why is it month to month?" They're like, "Well, it's easier to sell." And I was like, "Well, why wouldn't it be 12 months?" And they're like, "Well, that's a big decision and a lot of risk." I said, "Well, do you want to kind of eliminate that?" And so I like kind of what you probably do the same thing of kind of start with a strategy and really figure out like you said, kind of, yeah, figure out where they're wanting to go, what their biggest challenges are, and then we put a high level plan together, and then that probably leads to a project, I presume, or a smaller project.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say I had a lead come in the door and they want to do a website or something like that, right? So I might start to examine, okay, what's the context in which this project happens? It's usually not just a website. That's like a lot of the work that we do ends up being website related, but talking to them about what are the organizational goals? What is this? What are your challenges? What is this solving for? And then laying out a plan for, okay, maybe a website's part of that, but have you considered all these other things that you might want to be doing, right? You want this website, but have you actually even researched your audience at all? Have like the people you're thinking about it this way, but we take the perspective that your website is a product. So are you thinking about this like a one-time project and is it going to be done? And how are you going to then adapt to that over time, right? And and take their project and bring our perspective to that. And then that usually our perspective, of course, being that the website is a product, naturally leads into a retainer based relationship. So then we'll say, okay, we'll build out your MVP, the initial version of the website, and we'll help you do that, but then here's our roadmap for post launch for this website. So we'll do the build, but then know that after that, here's what we're trying to do. And so here's the retainer that's going to come along with that. And usually by the time we get done with the website, I don't think a website project has ever been finished without a phase two wish list at the end. And so it's just very natural to just say, all right, like I'll scope control the project by bundling all the stuff that comes up during the middle of it into retainers, and it flows really nicely just through the course of the project and helps me say yes to a lot of the stuff like strategy wise, or helps the project manager say yes to that during the build out, but then say yeah, well, yeah, but phase two, yeah, but this isn't in the retainer.
Yeah, I like that you kind of start selling the retainer while you're in the first engagement. I find if there are people where they wait until the project's done, then I think it's sometimes too late because they're already kind of like checked out, right? Like, do you see that as well?
Yeah, I think it's super hard if you're acting as if you're just this super project based company agency, and then all of a sudden at the end you're like, hey, by the way, I'm going to recommend that you spend $100,000 a year, and they're like, it's just like a truck hits them, and so I do think that telegraphing that that's the way that we work, that you work as an agency, helps them prepare over time. And I phrase it in a way that says, you if you want to continue working with us, then this is how we work. If you for whatever reason you don't like the product that we put out, if you don't like the experience of working with us, then after the project, like, you can take it and you can go and you can find someone else to do it. And so that sort of relieves them of this pressure of committing to effectively committing to a retainer at the beginning of a project, but also telegraphing to them that this is the conversation that's going to come after the project's done. And then it just leaves us as the agency in the position to just deliver a great experience so that that conversation is easy when the project's done.
So, what is your close rate percentage, or have you been tracking that of when people come to you for all this?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't have like a hard number off the top of my head, so I'll give you my ballpark guesstimate. It's very high. Usually, like, frankly, if I get a sense that a prospect is just interested in a project and there's not even an opportunity of a longer term relationship there, then I'll probably pass. So, I mean, that in itself takes my retainer close rate up a notch because I'm not trying to funnel people through that. It's kind of part of my qualifying process. So, like that being said, I'd say it's at least 50 or 60%
Okay.
that go into a retainer, if not more. And then the folks that don't go into a retainer, they typically stick around, but they're still thinking about the project based kind of work. So as a fallback with the clients that just say, "No, I'm not gonna do a retainer," then I'll probably do the more standard, account management follow-up every couple months and generate some more
Yeah.
projects, but typically those kind of clients, they know that we work on retainer, and, like, if we're not available, we're giving priority to our clients that are on retainer, and so that it's kind of a nice way to you prioritize the people who are on retainer, and then the clients that don't end up closing on a retainer, like, you can sort of nurture them to fill any gaps that you might have
Yeah.
in your pipeline.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge because I see when people are pitching retainer right off the bat, they're less than 25% because it's a big commitment,
Yeah.
right? And now you said 50%, but I want everybody to hear this is 50% to a retainer. So they've already gone through strategy and projects
Yeah.
and to the retainer. So the close rate for, what I call the foot in the door or a project is going to be skyrocket much faster. And then also, what is typically the timeline for closing, for getting that client to pay you right up, like for the first time? And then also, what's the trend? Like, how long is the timeline to get to the retainer average?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, initially, when you're doing, like, I think you mentioned, like, foot in the door, that initial project, that my entire goal with that is, like, how do I craft like, some sort of quick win strategy engagement? And then we're talking, like, 2 weeks, right? It's usually very easy. It's either, like, they're gonna probably pay up within 2 weeks and sign, or I'm gonna chase them for months and never hear back. It's only that middle, when you get, like, that 3-month close or 6-month close where those are, in my experience, usually always tied to these huge mega you're trying to sell the retainer up front. You're trying to sell the six-figure, seven-figure project right off the bat, and those, of course, that takes months and months if to close because that's huge. But it's much smaller. The idea is that they can make that decision in a few weeks or on the spot.
Exactly.
Then we'll typically go through a process that's about 3 months. If we're going to do a project like a website build or a relaunch, I'm shooting for about 3 months there, 3 or 4 months. And then after that, I'm looking to close a 12-month retainer on the back of it. And so really it's actually fairly accelerated. And usually once we get past that initial project, the foot in the door and then ladder it into a larger project, then by that point they've gone through 2 projects with us. Essentially, there's a lot of momentum behind the relationship. They're in a position where they're liking what they see. And so then when you're like, "Yeah, let's just keep working together." Like we've all these things that we've been talking about, the strategic roadmaps, we just need to now do that work. And so it just makes the retainer conversation very, very easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you built trust. You made it an easier decision. And then you're building trust as you show them little wins. You show them the plan. One of the things I always told people is people chose us because we made it easy for them to choose us. We explained exactly how our process worked rather than hiding or secret strategy, like all this super secret shit. And then, we did a little commitment on their end. And we also, too, we were evaluating them and we let them know we were evaluating them. Just kind of like you. Like, if people are wanting to go right to the retainer, yes, that's exciting, but it's also should be a red flag. You really want to commit to someone for 12 months and be miserable? You know,
Yeah.
you gotta, you know, and I can't tell you how many members in the mastermind I chat with that, in the very beginning when they join, there's so many clients that they need to get rid of because they're not profitable or they're a pain in the ass. And it's an easy, and we walk them through our offering ladder and the foot in the door and all
Hmm.
of this. And it really solves a lot of their pain. It doesn't solve everything, but it solves a good portion of it. Well, this has all been amazing, Spencer. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
No, I think maybe the one comment that I would add to kind of to flesh out your point, Jason, and then I think that's it. Is that yeah, that the foot in the door and the larger offering is absolutely that chance to evaluate a client. And over the years, that's certainly the thing that I've discovered with retainers is that great. Okay, you get awesome at closing retainers but if you close a client that you don't really like working with, then you're stuck with them for at least 12 months. And then, of course, everyone knows it's really hard to say bye-bye to revenue, even if there's so much pain associated with that. And so you really got to think about it from that perspective as well, is give someone that just progressively unlock your services to them so that you have that experience, that opportunity and experience with them to just say, no, thanks. I don't think this is going to work out
Yeah.
and save yourself a lot of pain.
What's the website people can go and check out the agency?
So it's brooks.digital, not .com, but the fancy new dot. It's not new anymore, I guess, but
Well, at least
digital.
at
So
least you
that's
didn't
where you
come
can
on
go
like
check
some of
out
my
all that
guests
stuff.
going www. I'm like, wow, you just aged yourself.
HTTPS://
Well, I used to do that for many years, and then someone made fun of me, and I'm like, maybe I need to switch that. So, but well, amazing. Thanks so much, Spencer, for
Oh, that's
coming on the
great.
show. Make sure you guys go check out his agency website, and if you guys want to know more about really crafting your own foot in the door and really how you can start selling bigger retainers faster, closing more, making it easier, getting paid for the proposal. I want you guys to go to footinthedoorframework.com. This is our exclusive program that I did with my good friend Ian Garlic, aka Sasquatch. He makes a lot of cameo appearances on our videos. Really good friend. And he's been doing the foot in the door framework for many years, perfected it. And he's been really helping out a lot of mastermind members, in the mastermind walk through this. And we just launched this program. So go to footinthedoorframework.com. And until next time, have a swank day.